And the streameth beginneth.
It's just you and me in the chat. Or in
That's
the
us.
voice call.
Maths time. Bad luck, everybody. It's maths time.
They left the mathematicians unattended.
So,
And
about
this is
that
now everyone
Gauss,
else's problem.
Yeah, let's get some background music going. Do-do-do-do-do. And down here. Ooh. Shape cat.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to see what I can make with just the shapes. Although because it puts it at a particular angle, I have to sort of move things.
Alright, yeah.
So like with the tail I had to adjust that, and the ears I had to adjust those. Oh, whoops, I didn't grab the whole thing.
That was it. That's impressive.
Don't know how I did that.
Sometimes you do something incorrect.
It wasn't even like selections that would have made sense. It was like a little sliver from each side.
Yeah. You sometimes end up doing something accidentally, which would be harder to do than, deliberately.
No, and you've got a little cat seat.
However, it's pronounced.
Oh yeah, and then there's his Moogle companion, Moogle ride underneath. I see it now.
The animatronic Moogle. I guess. It doesn't really look anything like a Moogle, to be honest, but whatever.
I mean, it's the right color, but it's like...
That's a low bar.
And it's got some of the same features. It's just kind of like if you crossed a Moogle with an orc.
Yeah. Morkel. Moogork. It's like that. There's...
Moogle. Just like Moogle on all of the steroids.
So there's your basic Moogle.
Or like a saber-tooth.
And then you have...
Alternately, it's a saber-tooth Moogle.
I'm not even sure it has the bobble, to be honest.
Doesn't it have the wings at least?
Might do. That feels right. Doesn't have the nose, doesn't have the bobble. What is this thing? Tetsuya Nomura, explain yourself. I get that it's like a mascot thing. That's just sort of running around Gold Saucer and that, but...
Yeah, well, and in 10-2, we've got the mascot costumes, although the Moogle mascot costume in 10-2 does actually, like, look like a Moogle mascot.
Yeah, and 10-2, it actually looks like a Moogle. Who'd have thought? It only took them 11 games.
I mean, it's got human proportions, obviously, but that's because it's a costume that a person's wearing. But it is definitely more Moogle shaped. Actually, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, that's from the dress sphere system they had in that game. Which was interesting, though some of the outfits is just kind of like you sit there and go, Oh,
that Moogle's dead.
Well, that that Moogle has a Yuna in it.
Oh, it's got a little Mumba as well. And there's a little...
Image is ever going to load into...
Popo? Is that the name of the thing? Yeah. The special and private dress of brother.
I think that's who you get the dress spear from. So, yeah, in 10-2, their class system is like any of your characters can be any of the classes, but the class stuff is done with what are called dress spheres. And this is what your 3 characters look like with the mascot dress sphere. And I see, while I was looking for that image, you have drawn a Moogle who works a desk job.
You just said a Moogle with human proportions. Would this count as a furry? Like a fictional furry is a thing? Probably, right?
Probably. But with the dress sphere, at least, it's literally just like it's more like a sports mascot type thing. But what you've drawn, on the other hand...
This is the Moogle in Medane Sari I didn't draw.
Yeah, it's their accountant.
Someone's got to look after the finances. 6 normal-sized Moogles and a 6-year-old, they're not going to do nothing. Gary, the accountant Moogle, he's got to do it all. Yeah, fine, I'll put you in a shirt. Originally, I liked the idea that they were just wearing a tie.
I mean, any Moogle could wear a tie if you get it around their fluffy neck.
Yeah.
Although I guess the ones from 12 aren't quite as pudgy in the neck area. So it'd be a little easier to get one on without it just sort of either disappearing into fluff or falling off.
They've gone through some proportion changes of the Moogles.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they're like rabbits.
Yeah. Still got the little pom-pom, though. They also come in a bunch of different colors. So instead of just all being white, they're white and brown and black. Like rabbits.
Yeah. There's a few different colors in 9. But not drastically so. They're all variations of beige and pinky beige. And then there's Artemisian, who's purple, but I don't know if they're supposed to be purple. Because
Yeah, the ones in 12 are just like they wear clothes. Like these are now people, not just convenient fluffy thing.
Oh, so they can be an accountant. Nice.
And in Tactics Advance, and I think also just regular old Tactics, which is set in the same universe as 12, you can have them as party members.
Nice.
Not so in 12, though. In 12, the only non-human party member you get is a Viera, which is a shame.
Gonna make a joke there about, like, their species being called shame. Like, oh, shame.
I mean, there's at least Moogles that are, like, major characters, but, like, none of them are in your party. Just a bunch of boring humans.
Boo.
And their weird political intrigue.
Boo, political intrigue.
Which then gets thrown by the wayside when things get weird, as what happens in Final Fantasy.
And you probably inevitably go into space. I don't know the story of 12. But space is usually involved somewhere. Also, maybe crystals.
Yeah. And the fun thing is, I can't even just blame that as that's a Final Fantasy thing, because one of the old, I think it's Might and Magic, one of the old ones of that, you also go to space in that game, in a rocket ship.
Yeah, I was watching someone play. Was it just straight up Might and Magic 5 or something? Because there's like heroes of Might and Magic and all that stuff. I can't remember which ones are which. And yeah, it was just this sort of like, wandering around the fantasy world with orcs and such, and getting swords and so on and so forth. And oh, we found an underground spaceship. What?
Yeah.
Oh, the enemy's an AI now.
That's...
Okay.
That's a thing that happens. So yeah, can't just blame Final Fantasy on that. They got that from Western RPGs. Which is really funny. And this continues on in Western RPGs with the current big one, Baldur's Gate. The big enemy things that you're fighting in that are... so D&D does technically have space aliens.
Oh.
Yeah, mind flayers are space aliens.
Oh, are they? I didn't know that.
Yep. They're from outer space.
Also, this isn't to scale. Yeah.
You gotta make it clear how big this weird saber-tooth Moogle is. Although now that I think about it, he's got basically the same body shape as Quimsh.
It's got a bit of quimpchiness about him, yeah. And who knows whether Quimch may very well have a cat under that little bonnet. I'm not going to say, it's not my business to know.
It's their afternoon snack.
See, I was thinking more like Ratatouille. But Catatouille. The little cat teaching Quimch how to cook. Maybe that's why Quimch is in the castle at the start. There's a master chef cat living in their hat. And then later in the story they go off and get their own job. And Quimch is like, oh, what do I do now? Catch frogs. This will
Because he's
absolutely
a
not make
master
it.
of the culinary.
Should we doodle sprites? I hear that's a thing.
Yeah, I have sprites.
Marvelous. I was going to get some ready myself and then I forgot. What a surprise, me forgetting things. That's never happened before, to my knowledge.
Let's see.
Shall I hop on over to the left of the canvas? It's gonna feel weird.
I mean, wherever you want to be on the canvas. I'll just...
That's a lot of pixels just happening there.
And again, some of these are technically clear from the entire sheet what's going on, but individual sprites just look like nonsense.
Honestly, I've been over this side of the canvas for 5 seconds and I've already drawn tits. Cheap spirit truly is with us.
I mean, the fun thing is with this one, that's not exactly wrong. Just in a very cursed way. But then again, I think this game is sort of cursed in general. I don't know why this game is so beloved in certain groups of people.
Don't know why this game exists. I have an idea as to what it is, but I'm not entirely certain this time.
I mean, with the game itself, I know why it existed. It's just not a genre of game where I look at it and go, ah, yes, it makes sense that people are still enjoying this and making references to it even today. It's like, eh. But also, it's not a game type that really would have drawn me in anyway. So, might just be I'm not the intended audience.
Potentially.
Oh, these legs are, do not look like they go together.
That happens whenever you have to draw a pair of anything. Pair of legs, pair of hands, pair of eyes, pair of bananas. Doesn't matter. The struggle is always the same.
Yeah, I've drawn these lines in. It just looks like he's running around with his tits out. Where's Cheeb when you need them?
Exactly. We're making up for absent Cheebs.
Like, I tried doing the lines a couple of different ways, and it's like, nope, each one of these just looks more tits out. Well, mine looks monstrous. Like a... That's not the word... how the word should have come out of my mouth.
Yours looks monstrosist.
Like a monstrosity. There we go.
Monstrositish.
And so the way I've drawn him, it looks like he's wearing a jumpsuit that is just zipped all the way down in the front.
Mine started like that. Then just sort of turned into a dressing gown. I'm not necessarily saying it's better. mean, mine's basically done. Hey, Oobs! How are you doing?
Hi, Oobs. You want to join us drawing sprites? We have plenty of space.
We shall take up all the space. Good, good. You? Well, them, huh?
I like the little cat friend you've added there.
There's a little cat friend. Ooh. Definitely a tids out kind of day. Do you know what? Speaking of Final Fantasy, yours reminds me of... I can't remember what they're called. Shumi? Final Fantasy VIII? Norg? Like if you look,
those things.
If you look at the tids as a chin. This is Norg's eccentric cousin. Sooth. You're watercoloring alongside. Ooh, nice. Good job. There. Yeah, is this about Battletoads?
Yeah.
What is
this?
With
Is
the
a Battletoads.
What is with the definition on those muscles? I don't want to see veins on a toad.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what was going on with the design of these things. The only thing I can figure is they were trying to make like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style thing, but decided to use frogs instead.
I can see that, but why would you end up with this?
I don't know. Now, granted, the pixel art I've posted in the Discord is a much newer pixel art than the stuff I posted to draw from. True. Whoever designed these toads was projecting something. I'll go ahead and say that. Now, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
No neck altered. Battle tids.
And yeah, that's... I think this one's called Zits. There's like 3 of them.
What? Too many questions. No answers required.
I don't know. I never really played this game because this is the original Battletoads is one of those ones where it's like, this is just hard to the point of it feels unfair.
I was going to say the only thing I know about it
games.
Is the infamous level on it, which is just basically impossible.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure speedrunners have worked out a way of doing it.
But I mean, it's something that is still around in people's hearts and minds. They've got a cameo in Shovel Knight. Why? I don't know. But they're there.
No one knows. No one put them in there. They just arrived one day.
I mean, hilariously enough, kinda. So in the game, basically what happens is after you beat Shovel Knight, or at least one of the character runs of Shovel Knight, basically another spot, like another level clip will show up on the map and you can go there and it's like, oh, here's the Battletoads that come down in their spaceship.
Oh, they're aliens as well.
Challenging you to a thing. And it's like, okay, cool, I guess.
Well then.
Yeah, they are in Shovel Knight.
Looking at this again, there's a lot of questions to be had. But for some reason, the one that is sticking in my head is those gloves. Like, there's something about those gloves. It's just like they're very shiny, black rubber or latex or whatever gloves. with like the very strong, like, I don't know what you call that, cuff or whatever at the end, and it's just like, that's so specific. But unpleasantly surgical. I don't like it.
Yeah. And that's just a thing that pops up in the design.
Just one
here,
of many things.
Yeah, one of many things that pops up in the design where it's like, Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking for this, but also.
Also, what is going on in this sprite?
This is the first part of a attack animation where he's kicking. So for some reason, for one of the kick and one of the punch animations, the foot and hand in the final bit of the animation gets really, really big.
Okay.
So that's why the one foot looks really large. It's about to get even larger when it comes forward to hit whatever the target is.
Okay, I can understand that. Cartoony exaggeration.
Yeah.
There's a lot of random lines going on outside, though. Like, I put them down to just my old man's knees clacking, but...
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
The one on the front leg, I could kind of excuse as being like one of the spikes that they just forgot to color in. I don't know the other ones. What's going on there?
I mean, I guess I can grab some of the other bits of their sprite and we can take a look.
I'd also ask what's going on with the face, but drawing anything at an angle in pixel art is basically impossible. So I'll give them a pass on that.
Well, and this is from Game Boy version of Battletoads, so
oh yeah, you gotta go all
less
the
things
way.
to work with.
Gotta go all the way to Game Boy to get the good crispy sprites. Sorry, not crispy, crusty. We need the full-on jank.
Yeah, looking at the other sprites, I have a feeling that's just a thing that wasn't filled in on that particular sprite. Because... let me see if I can just grab all the attack animation ones. All the major attack animation ones. Oh well, I've also grabbed part of his leg from another line of it, but, you know, we can work with that.
He doesn't need it. It's fine.
There he is.
Okay, so he's got like a kind of big goofy smile. That's one that's supposed to be on the face.
Yeah, like I said, Ninja Turtles-esque. Because this game is from 1990 or 91, I think. So Ninja Turtles would have been around from the previous decade.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be spikes.
Yeah, he's got like spiky knee pads. It's just in this sprite, they just didn't quite make it right. Which happens. And since the whole thing is black and white, easy to either miss that or have something go unnoticed.
I mean, what is happening at the end there? I'm struggling to ascertain anything about that. mean, it's different because it looks like it's been sort of scaled or whatever, but... I don't know. I'm going to stop looking at that now. Yeah,
But you don't want to look more at these sexy, sexy Battletoads.
No, I'm fine, thank you. Appreciate the offer, though I do. Also been staring at pink too much, so everything looks green now.
Yay, color theory.
My blue and red receptors are blown out and we're just left with the green one.
I guess speaking of green.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That is an unpleasant color palette.
Yep.
If you have green-blue color blindness, can I?
Although at least with this one, it's like, I know why this is green. I don't know why it's this green. But also, he's not the only one. It's not the only sprite set that sprite from this set that's like really brightly colored. The other characters were just like god awful neons as well. So whoever was doing the color design for this game, shame on you.
Hey, Kiro! I just want to check something. Can I open up Clip Studio?
Also, it's even harder to see this one because, for whatever reason, the people who posted the sprite sheets decided to have these sprite sheets be a blue background. With that bright green on top of it.
Hey, Kiro! How you doing?
Aw, sleepy.
Sleepy.
Well, you're welcome to either sleep in chat or come in and sleep bright drawings.
Sleep. However and wherever you wish. How are we? I'm alright. I believe after the kerfuffle of yesterday, Ragdoll's okay. Glad things were okay in the end. After a lot of work. So what's Akira up to right now? Exciting things? Waking up, very exciting.
Oh, this picture's a mess, but that's okay. Drinking coffee. Check on laundry in a bit.
Coffee!
Yeah, I need to finish folding my laundry, but everything that hasn't been folded yet is stuff where it's like, I don't care if this is folded now, this can get folded later. Like socks. My dress shirts and dress pants have all already been hung up. Everything else is just like socks.
Socks don't care.
Yeah, the only thing well, and even then, technically, I guess if I wanted to, I don't have to match my socks.
Nope. I mean, I like to, but apparently I'm unusual.
A friend of mine from high school did this thing where they deliberately mismatched patterned socks that they had, but like there was a theme to it. So like there was one I remember distinctly where it's like one sock, the pair of socks, quote unquote, or the two pairs of socks I should say, was one sock was from a patterned sock that had cookies on it, and the other one was from a patterned sock that had cows.
Let's see.
So cookies and milk.
I mean, nice if you could do a chain. Like a sock from pair A goes with pair B, a sock from pair B goes with pair C, a pair C with D, and then like D to A again. If you can work out a chain like that, that'd be fun.
And now we get into the enumeration problem of how many ways can you take these pairs of socks.
Combinatorics.
My probability and statistics students have been learning about that.
It's very, very important, probability.
Yep.
God be certain you've covered all bases.
When you've got many, many, many possible outcomes, no one wants to count those outcomes by hand.
I mean, when you have mathematicians...
And while these days there are mathematical... There are statistical methods that go, right, we're just going to count all of the ways of enumerating this. No one does that by hand. We put it into a computer.
Did that in high school and that was the worst. See, I like combinatorics. That was my like informal personal preference during my PhD. So yeah, we were doing algebra, doing representation theory. I'm cool with that, like that stuff, that's good. But whenever I could work out some sort of combinatorial problem to solve, I was in.
It's just counting. We've all been counting since we were wee little tots.
Yeah.
Just not like this. Same thing with some of my students in my gen math class. It's like, we get to do coloring, not that kind of coloring. This is graph theory coloring.
The four-color theorem. Have they got a shorter proof for that yet? Wait, I mentioned
the only one I'm aware of, and granted, this is partially because I haven't like checked a lot, is they did a proof that shows that every graph can be simplified down to one of a certain kind, like of these sets of graphs. So basically, it's like we only have to check these subgraphs. And then from those subgraphs, they did proof by exhaustion, where it's like every single one of these cases we can do with 4. I think there's been some additional stuff with it, but I haven't like looked. I do know, however, that for the longest time that drove mathematicians up the wall, because it's like that no one likes proof by exhaustion, and to be fair, no one should want to do proof by exhaustion.
No. It's called exhaustion for a reason. So I guess I should...
Because you're exhausted afterwards.
For the sake of people who don't know what we're talking about, the 4-color theorem basically says if you have a map and you want to color all of the regions of the map in such a way that no two parts of the map that share a border have the same color, you can always get away with 4. 4
it sometimes takes a while to find a way to do that 4, but you can get away with 4.
You can 4 will always work. Some will work with 3, some won't. But 4 will always work. And trying to prove that turns out to be a bit of a pain. And I believe it was the first sort of proof exclusively by computation. Like they reduced it down to these specific cases and then did a proof by exhaustion. But there were so many cases they just fed it to a computer. And there was a lot of
proof
argument.
By exhaustion being you go through every single possible outcome and say, well, it worked for every single possible outcome, therefore.
It worked for these 3,000.
We don't do that in mathematics a lot because it's very rare that every single case is something that is finite and manageable.
Yeah. But it just so happened that in this instance, you could always reduce it down to something simpler. And then we could just check all of the simple ones.
The easy quote-unquote part of the proof was just proving that it's like, okay, if we're dealing with a map, we're dealing with a planar graph. So now it's just, well, what can we say about what's going on with these planar graphs? But yeah.
That feels about right. So you could always turn a map into a graph by basically going, every region is a dot, and you connect the 2 dots if they share a border. Boom. And now all you got to do is color in the dots. Which is exactly the same problem.
If they have a line between them, they're not colored the same. Yep.
Yeah. And basically, we know a lot more about those than we do about those. They're a much more manageable mathematical thing. Graph theory. Also a personal favorite. Anyway, yeah, I'm basically done. Dead duck.
Yep. Because again, first of knowledge, I know what this is.
It's not my Anona mouse.
No, but I like your mouse.
It's a duck. It's a green duck.
Yeah, so this is Plucky Duck from Tiny Toons Adventures. Or more specifically here, a game based off of the Tiny Toons Adventures.
I had a SNES Tiny Toons game. I've never seen Tiny Toons, but I remember having the game. I've just remembered this, and I've just remembered that this character was in it. in some capacity. They all had mini games, if I remember correctly, that were between levels. I can't remember what the mini game for this one is.
There's a couple different playable characters. There's this one. There's a rabbit. There's the one based off of the baby version of a Tasmanian devil.
Let me see if I can find the game that I'm thinking of. There's probably several.
Yeah, good old existing IP.
Classic. We get a lot of our sprites from that. Tiny Tuna's Adventures
because
Buster Busts Loose.
They're characters that are recognizable, but sprites that are incomprehensible. This one in particular is from a game literally just called Tiny Toon Adventures that was on the NES, I think.
Yeah, the graphics went up at the Super Nintendo one. I remember the Super Nintendo one looking nice. Very snazzy sort of graphics.
Yeah, those aren't quite as neon.
Yeah, these are easier on the eye.
Neon duck.
I wonder whether this was any good. I remember playing it a fair bit.
Well, I mean, the question then becomes, good by what standards? Because there are some games where it's like, yes, this was great at the time, but also...
It was great at the time, but the times didn't know better.
Well, and I mean, and some of it is just like we found improvements. So like there's plenty of like RPG style games where it's just kind of like, I'm too used to these modern quality of life things to really want to go back and play that.
Yeah.
So like I said, as far as Pokemon is concerned, I love Gen 3. Gen 3 is sort of where the series got the ball rolling. It's sort of simpler mechanics wise, but there's a lot of quality of life things that have come up in later gens where it's just kind of like, oh, I like this. I don't want to deal with that old stuff anymore.
I must say, in terms of the older Final Fantasy games, it's less of an issue now because you've got the pixel remasters, which fix a lot of the problems. But I do recommend, if you like these sort of old RPGs, Final Fantasy IV is a good one. But do play the pixel remaster because that has a run button, and that's so much better.
Yeah, essentially.
Not having a run button.
Don't waste my time.
Is exhausting.
Or the auto battle button where it's just kind of like, I don't need to pay attention to this fight. It's just a random fight as I get from point A to point B. Just go.
Yeah, see, I like that, but at the same time, I always think it's a bit of a sort of lost chance. I'm doing a playthrough of Final Fantasy VII at the moment. So it's sort of a challenge thing. Because I found out, apparently, that some enemies in that game you can steal weapons from. So I decided to do a challenge run where I can't buy anything. So I just have to get all of my equipment by stealing it. And it's just made me actually pay attention to what enemies do and, what they have and what they drop and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like, that gets a bit lost if all you're doing is auto-battling. But at the same time, the game doesn't really give you a particular reason to do that. I had to self-impose my own rule to get me to care about it. So
yeah,
clearly they're not doing something
and
right.
They are coming from a time and place where it's like you sort of have to a certain extent level grind a bit if you want to survive without great difficulty. But a lot of more modern RPGs, that's not so much the problem. I've been playing Digimon Cyber Sleuth, and it's got a thing where you can very easily get extra Digimon that you're just not going to use. Stick any Digimon you're not active, well, not any, some active Digimon you're not actively using in the farm so that they just collect EXP while time passes, and any Digimon you're not planning on actively using, you can just grind up into EXP for something else. So I've been doing some level grinding, but it's something that I could very easily get away with not doing.
Yeah.
Similarly, with the more modern SMT games, you've now got additional items that are present where it's like, I don't have to spend hours trying to make sure that my demons are strong enough so that I don't die. And again, when you're fusing demons to make new demons, it's now a whole lot easier to see what you can make and control what sort of abilities that they have and see the results instead of just pushing a button and praying that the moon doesn't screw things up. Or doing like what I did when I was playing the Devil Summoner game, just doing the click in, click out, click in, click out until the random assigned skills were the skills I was actually interested in having. You don't do that in SMT5. You can just select the moves you want to pass on. Now, not every move passes on, but that's just this is a species-specific move. It can't be passed on, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like, you get to pick. And that's a quality of life thing where it's just kind of like, I can stand not having it, but it's a pain in the ass now that I'm aware that it's a thing that exists.
Curse of knowledge. We're back to that.
Yep.
You always try and steal as much as you can. Wow, I do not have the patience to do that in a normal playthrough, Kira. But this is why I wanted to do this. I wanted to learn. Can I pick weapons up too? For the time being, this may change as the game goes on, although it's going alright so far. I've gone for the hardest version of the challenge, which is I can only use things I have won or stolen in battle. So I can't pick anything up. I can't buy anything. I can't, not even inns. Just, yeah. The one exception, because this is how I started the challenge, and then immediately I realized the challenge was pointless, because I got to the bit where you have to pick up the steel materia, and I was like, oh, according to my rules, I can't pick this up. That kind of ruins the point of this challenge. So I gave myself an exception in that particular instance, and I picked that up. But that's the only thing I've picked up that wasn't essential.
Yeah, you'd have to make an exception for key items as well.
Yeah. So I had to pick up like spoilers, I guess. Like keys to get through places that you need to buy batteries for the wall market, that sort of thing.
Spoilers for a game from like 20 plus years ago?
Yeah, but I don't know where the remakes are going. Some people might have only played the first part of the the remake. They haven't seen the rest of the game, so I don't know.
Okay,
talking about, a harp. But, I guess I could talk about the harp because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any impact on the story. It's just a key, essentially. But, yeah. Maybe it's different in the remake. Don't know.
Well, they're definitely going for some sort of alternate universe thing in the remake, so we'll see where that goes.
The alternate universe with segues. If it helps you play the game at least 5 times. Yeah. But I know, like, Christy was annoyed at hearing spoilers for things. I don't want to upset anyone because of things. It's always best to assume people don't know. But yeah, I mean, so far, my little playthrough's going rather well. Spent an awful lot of time stealing explosives from bombs. But, going well. You have questions for them about the remake, yeah. I still haven't really...
I guess Gil is just completely useless to you in that if you're not even using ins.
Completely, yes. And there was some... I'm umming and ahhing in the back of my mind of, like, can I use materia I start with? So far, I haven't. But if I do eventually go back on that, Yuffie has the throw materia, which I think turns into coin later, so maybe it'll be useful, I don't know.
Well, I guess it just depends on how you want to put your rules on that one, because like you didn't pick it up on the overworld; it just was already in your pockets.
Exactly. And also there's the other caveats of like, what if someone gives you something? You haven't picked it up. You didn't have a choice but to get it. Like I say, I'm sticking with like the hardest rule set until I encounter an issue. But even then, it's just problem solving, you know? I haven't really come up against any huge barrier, I don't think. Honestly, the main thing is thinking, how can I get health? Because I'm not letting myself use ins. Exchange of money for, goods and services is out. So trying to find like free heals and using limit breaks that heal and stuff like that, which halfway through the game gets harder. Finally saw the new trailer and wow, okay, apparently they're going to go more than you thought they would, which makes the 2-disc option make sense. Yeah, they seem to be going quite far. Although they might rearrange things so it's a bit difficult to know exactly how far they're going to go. Don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, I say it'll be interesting. I wasn't interested enough in the first game to watch any of it, so... I've played 7.
Intriguing, at least.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what the reaction's going to be.
Yes, there is that at least.
Because there's been a odd, mixed, but generally positive reaction to the first part of the remake, because they've changed some bits here and there and added a bunch of stuff, and also apparently a bunch of people discovering that there's a character called Johnny in the game they just didn't realize was actually in the original. Apparently he's a bigger thing in the remake. People are like, who's this guy?
Yeah, they expanded quite a few things there in that first arc. Some spots, there's definitely an argument to be made of this is a weird place to extend things. Because it's like, why are we adding plot points here where the whole thing is like, we need to rush back?
No, we need a 20-hour makeup minigame for the Honeybee Inn. You don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. They're taking this opportunity to sort of play around with things, and while I think calling, a reimagining of a third of a game the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that feels a little bit disingenuous. If everyone's on board with the idea of this as a reimagining, let's see what they do with it. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I've got the old game. I'm alright.
The main people where they've complained, where I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's fair, are mainly people where it's like they marketed this as we're taking the old story and just doing it, giving it the cinematography that we can now do with these major systems, and that's sort of how they marketed it, and then the actual game ended up not being that. And from a consumer standpoint, if you are sold one thing and you are given another, yeah, that is at least potentially problematic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the product itself is bad. That just means whoever did the marketing maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah, it took the word remake and ran with it. Yeah, we're just going to make this again however we want. It's interesting. There's no real, when it comes to games, there's no real sort of definition of the words remake, remaster, reimagine. They're all just a big wishy-washy mess. Yeah, they're remaking the world and story and not telling the same story again. I mean, I looked at the people pointed out that the mild spoilers for the trailer of the second part of the remake, that Sephiroth and Cloud are fighting the Materia Keeper together, which that doesn't match. I mean, in location it matches, but not in time. So they're definitely going to be fiddling around with some things. Although, to be fair, if you think about it, if you move that to a different point of the game, honestly, it doesn't matter. It's just a random boss.
Yeah, there's some things in some of the Final Fantasy games where reordering it would make sense. In fact, I think it was 8. It was either 8 or
or
9,
let's not get into reordering 8.
Well, I think 8 especially, unless I'm mixing things up, I want to say that some of the events had to get reordered. Like it was written a certain way, and then they had to reorder it when they were actually doing the production because of space limitations on the disc.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, okay, well, we wanted the events to go like this, and the break to be here, but it's not going to all fit on this disc, so we have to reorder things and move some things over here. Because of, like, physical space limitations.
Yeah.
These days, that's less of a problem. So, and like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I want to say there was, like, one boss in particular where it's like, this wasn't meant to be here. It's just where it ended up because they had to shuffle things around because of disk space.
I kind of like that. I think that's fun. You got all these bosses, you got all these characters and story points, and then someone comes along and goes, "Oh, by the way, we're rearranging everything. Make sense of it." Ah, it feels like a fun challenge. But yeah, no, there's definitely things in Final Fantasy games where you're like, "Why is this here? Why are we doing this now?"
Well, and I think part of it with like I said, with the one boss that got moved, I think it had to do with like the animations that were, because I mean, and you've brought this up, the CGI movie bits of it that takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if we've got like a whole scene with this and it doesn't fit on here, we've got to just move the whole thing somewhere else. But it's wild to me that FF7 is now becoming even bigger. Although I'm sure part of that is probably because these days a lot of game studios are not optimizing the amount of space and memory use of their games, because for a lot of them they don't feel like they need to, and or they don't have the time to.
Yeah, it's a combination. I remember I watched an interview with the directors of Final Fantasy VII and the composer and all that. And they were talking about the making of it. And apparently, like, right up till launch, they were rearranging data on the disc, like physically, at what portion of the physical disc is this data being stored, in order to make the transitions from the overworld to battle as quick as possible. So the data could be found as quickly as possible. The data for this battle needs to be right next to the data that loaded in this area, just so we can make sure everything's as fast as possible. It's just those tiny optimizations. Because if you want to compare,
well, especially
especially
with those physical disc readers.
If the PlayStation 1 version of Final Fantasy V, by comparison, has extraordinarily slow loading. So, you know, back then it was actually a challenge to make things load properly. Not just, you know, order of operations, but just physical, like, we need to find this on the disc. The laser needs to be pointed in the right place.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to a certain extent, we still have that problem, even if it's the whole file is somewhere in your hard drive. Well, the question is where. Because especially if you've got like a Windows machine, Windows just sort of puts the necessary files for things just all over the damn place. but the computers these days, even if you're not running something super powerful, are a lot faster than the PS1, PS2. And if you've got a machine where it's like, I'm specifically going to be doing gaming on this, you've probably got a separate graphics processing unit. So it's not as necessary. But also, it would be nice if they could do at least some optimization. That way it'd be easier to play games on computers that don't have enough power to launch a rocket to the sun.
Yeah. This was one of the issues when Remnant 2 came out. Was that they said in the notes of the description and all that, they gave the graphical specifications, and they said this game has like a built-in thing that Unreal 5 engine uses, which is AI upscaling, so that it can render a scene in lower resolution and then use sort of trained neural networks that have been trained on upscaling images and stuff like that to do that dynamically, so that the rendering engine itself doesn't have to do it in every given instance. However, I think the purpose of that technology was to make things look better than a good basis. But what they used it for was to render everything real low and just not optimize anything and go, well, we've got the AI upscaler, so we don't need to optimize anything. Like, that's not what that's for. Yeah. And they had to recently retroactively add a lower graphics mode. Hi, Lewis!
People need to know what tools are used for when they're using tools.
Shark Den's finally complete. You can stop running around putting things in things to take out and put on top of or in other things. Yay! We're the society of putting things on top of other things. Etc, etc, Monty Python. But yeah, that kind of annoyed me. Just like, that's not what the AI upscaling's for. Also, the AI upscaling looks bad. And just another
because
pet
what you
peeve.
just described, that sort of sounds similar to like the idea of like vector images, where it's like we're creating this in such a way that small scale or large scale, it's going to more or less look the same and still be recognizable. So it's like low resolution, high resolution, we can still make something that's doable instead of needing to have a separate setting for each one. But yeah, it doesn't sound like they managed to do that.
And the other thing, just as a personal thing, I would personally like for game companies that make these games that are huge to release a low graphics version of the game that I can download that's like a fifth of the size and doesn't contain all of the textures that I won't be using. Because if I'm just going to be putting your game on low quality straight away, what's the point in me downloading 50 gigabytes of textures I can't see? Like,
yeah, there's that too.
It would save on bandwidth. Everyone's happy. Steam, do this. Epic, GOG, anyone. Actually, not GOG. You sell old games anyway. But
yeah, I was about to say. Well, I mean, they also have newer games, so they've got Baldur's Gate 3 up on their website. They just also have Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, which are significantly less computer intensive.
Less computer intensive, but also more prone to crashing. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Old games usually are. Although that's less to do with the old games and more to do with the new operating systems not being compatible with the old game. But, yeah. Anyway, good.
Yeah, which
good.
is why if they're old enough, they're packaged in DOS boxes, so you've essentially downloaded a emulator to play your game in.
And I'm fine with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the fun things about DOSBox is you can dynamically change the cycles to make the game go faster, which I constantly did when playing Arena. It was a good time. But anyway, yay! Good job sorting out the shark den, Lewis. Hopefully you're nice and comfy. Yeah, let's do another sprite. Because we're like an hour and a half in and we've done 2. Not that we need to do a lot, but you know, it's nice chatting. If we can have fun just chatting, we don't need the sprites. Oh, hello.
Let's do this, friend.
Oh god.
Good luck.
This is looking like another Sonic. Quite why it's splashing blood everywhere, I don't know.
Because that's what you've decided to interpret that bit of sprite as?
Look, if Tumblr's taught me one thing, it's color theory.
Oh, so you're drawing a children's hospital then?
Yes, this is a cleaning robot in a children's hospital. I've broken from tradition a little bit and I've drawn this one at a different angle. But that's just so I could fully misinterpret it. I mean, accurately interpret it.
I mean, we've already done one tits out drawing, so...
2. We both did one. How dare I? I know. Yeah, Cheeb's not here and we decided subconsciously that the very first thing we should draw should be tits out. In their memory.
I mean, to be fair, the actual drawing itself was also tits out.
It was.
It's just they were frog tits, which is not something that should have tits.
You telling me frogs aren't mammals?
I mean, they're probably not. But then again, biology's weird. It's hard to know what exactly a particular thing is going to try and evolve into and be.
Circles! Yeah. What happened there? Everything reloaded, that was weird.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times, and I don't know why.
How strange. How peculiar.
I have not made this nose straight. It's all curvy. It's like a beak.
So that's fine, I have avoided this by not giving it a nose. Oh, I should probably specify. Speaking about this challenge run I was doing in Final Fantasy VII, this was not my first attempt at doing a challenge run. Or FF7, because I don't usually do challenge runs in RPGs because they're quite long. And usually the response to a challenge run in one of those games is to grind. But I was watching somebody do a challenge run and I was like, oh, I want to do one, it'll be fun. What would be a fun idea for a run that wouldn't involve grinding? And I thought, well, the obvious one would be no optional battles. Then I can't grind. Can only do compulsory battles. And I got about halfway through that before I realised I was basically just doing the speed run. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a solved problem. Ooh. It was kind of fun to do all the problem solving for it, though. So like very limited money and trying to work out, like, well, you know, what happens with the pincer attack? Because you can't run away from that until you've killed one side. Are you just allowed carte blanche until you can run away? can I steal things from a pincer attack? And I looked up all of the possible pincer attacks in the game and what things I could steal. Turns out nothing useful. Very annoying. But yeah, I just got to the middle of the game roughly and went, oh yeah, I'm just doing the speedrun, aren't I?
Yeah, a lot of the speed runs are basically like, what mechanics can we take advantage of so that we can get by with the minimum amount of EXP?
Yeah.
Because again, fights take time. And yes, there are some bosses where if you're a high enough level, you can do that particular boss fight very, very quickly. But the point is to do the whole thing very, very quickly. Which means you end up at the boss fight essentially underleveled.
So yeah, my
Assuming, of course, you're going through the game just taking advantage of battle mechanics and not going through the game by breaking it over your knee and going, right, we're just flooding the memory and ending up in an entirely different part of the map.
Yes.
That's still the wildest FF run I've ever seen. Where it's like, and now we're on the moon! Randomly.
Don't worry about it. You can get to the moon just by walking up 63 flights of stairs. It's fine.
Although I still think the wildest, there is a... It's one of the Gen 1 games. I don't remember if it's yellow or red and blue, where there's a speed run. There's a complete the decks speed run that allows glitches.
Yeah.
And boy howdy, it's wild. And it made it onto one of the GDQs once. And it's funny because on the couch you had some people who are familiar with the run, some people who are at least familiar with Pokemon runs, and some people who are at least familiar with Pokemon, including Kizaron, who does all sorts of Pokemon runs. And the entire run, he's just sitting there going, I have no idea what's going on. We've walked into a patch of grass, and that patch of grass has added a Pokemon to our decks, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, Kira is just the Bioshock without swapping weapons by accident. But the ones where you Ocarina of Time with only 3 hearts without using the shield. Oh, that's pretty neat. Nerve-wracking, but it looked fun too, I can imagine. There's some clever one. There was, so the person I'm watching who's doing they're trying to do Final Fantasy VII only using limits. And that's what made me want to do a challenge run for it. But this is following on from their previous Final Fantasy IX used only trance, and they've done FF8 without junctioning. They've done loads of stuff. Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 without taking a step. That kind of thing. And speaking of Pokemon, knowing how broken the Gen 1 Pokemon games are, they've also done Dark Souls 1 and 2, as much as you can at least, with all bosses in alphabetical order. And I think there was only one boss you couldn't do that for in Dark Souls 1, and a couple you can do it for in 2. But just break the game over your knee, do whatever you have to do to fight them in order. And they wanted to do completing the Pokedex in alphabetical order in the Gen 1 games, which means that your first Pokemon has to be Abra. And they successfully did that. They did successfully get Abra as their first Pokemon. The game was so corrupted at that point that it immediately turned into a Charizard, but they did manage to do it. and they want to try and work out how to do it without corrupting the game, and that feels like a fun.
Oh boy.
What was the last one they did? Oh, Prince of Persia without wall running. And that was a video they just released.
I'm confused how you would do that, because if it's the Prince of Persia I'm thinking of, most of the puzzles involve wall running.
Yep, but did you know you can clip through walls? I've only watched the first 5 minutes, but I want to watch the rest.
I mean, I know someone did Breath of the Wild without climbing.
Nice.
And immediately, apparently when they were doing that challenge run, the hardest part was getting out of the cave you're in at the start. Because that's basic. That cave is teaching you some of the basic like button mechanics thing, including a part where it's like climb up this tiny cliff to get up to the exit, and it's like, but if I'm not climbing, how do I get out?
Yeah, the early tutorials are usually where something like that falls down. The same people, NG Plus, if anyone's interested, people I'm talking about, their name's a pun because it's Nathan and Gina. It's the NG. But yeah, another one of they've done. I think the first 4 Spyro games without using wings. So for the first 3 games, there was no flying or gliding. And for the game after that, no, 2 games after that actually, there was a double jump involved, and they said we won't do that either because they flap the wing to do that. And yeah, on the last one they did, they spent quite a while trying to work out how to get out of the room you get locked in that teaches you how to double jump.
Yeah. Apparently what ended up happening is they spent like an hour or so just sort of stacking some box type things that were in the room, because basically with the rule they made with how long the game is, basically it's like if I accidentally start a thing that is climbing, as long as I immediately let go, I don't have to restart. And movement up things that doesn't use your stamina wheel also doesn't count. So like walking upstairs doesn't use up your stamina wheel. Climbing a ladder doesn't use your stamina wheel, though they at least tried to avoid that. But there are some spaces where it's like the only way of getting up there is the ladder. Although they did find the main way they got up things is they made fire pits and had their glider just shoot them up.
Interesting. Hot air rises? I'm all for that.
And there was someone who decided to do one of the gens of Pokemon. I don't remember if it was Gen 1 or Kanto in Gen 3, where we're doing a we never get hit run.
Yeah.
That had many restarts, as you can maybe guess.
There is someone I follow who's doing... apparently this is an established challenge people do, called Kaizo Ironmon. And it's... Yeah, it's randomized.
Bonkers.
You're allowed 1 Pokemon, whatever your starter is. And just like this whole additional list of rules of like, you know, all of the moves are randomized. You can't teach them moves. You can't use healing items in battle. You can't. Like, it's just. And someone I follow occasionally dips back into that, and they have a counter of how many times they've reset. I think they're up to 1,500 at this point. They got very, very far last time.
It's basically a randomized Nuzlocke on crack.
Yeah, it's quite something. Although another challenge that I do every year because it's another established thing, is the 4-job fiesta for Final Fantasy V. So in Final Fantasy V, they have the similar thing to 10.2, which is a job system where characters can essentially equip a job at will. So, you can customize your party at any given point, and you're a fighter, and you're a white mage, you're a black mage, you're a monk. No, actually, changed my mind. You're a berserker, you're a time mage, you're a dancer, and you're a geomancer, etc., etc.
And you're a random geologist.
You're just a geologist.
You're working on your PhD thesis and saving the world.
Why not? To be fair, Final Fantasy VI, one of the characters has a move that they can learn from enemies, which is just throwing a rock at the enemy. It's real good. So yeah, geologists rock. But yeah, so because that game has so much customization and all those things have to be sort of good in their own right, there are obviously things that are better than others, and so people gravitate towards particular jobs because they're better than other jobs, etc., etc. But they're all good. And so there's a thing called the 4-job fiesta, which is every year. It's a little charity event. You can have a randomized for you 4 jobs, and they are the only jobs you can use during your run. If you're having difficulty, if it's too hard for you, you can donate a little money to charity and re-roll. And it's just a fun little thing. But it is generally accepted that any combination of them will work, because there's one class called the Berserker, which is basically you have no control over them. They just attack. That's all they do. They attack a random enemy on their turn automatically. People have beaten that game with 3 of their characters dead permanently and 1 of their characters as a berserker. People have beaten the game not controlling the battle at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen with Twitch Plays Pokemon that those games can be beaten by essentially just hitting random buttons all over the place. So it'll take a while, but yeah, some of those RPGs, it's just don't worry too much about it.
Honestly, I can kind of the thing that really gets me. I mean, I don't know how you. I guess there's one point in the game where you have to use 2 characters. Because the party has to split into 2 little groups, but then I guess it's just one berserker in each. But the thing I don't get about that is that the reason the characters have to split in that is so that one party can only use magic. So how does that work? But anyway, barter. But people have also done like the original Final Fantasy 1 using only 1 white mage. I think there's a speed run of that. Yeah, these sorts of challenges are always good fun. This is why Final Fantasy V is one of my favorites. Keep going back to it. So much customization.
Yeah, 3 also has a lot of customization, though that one. So you've got 4 party members, but what classes they are is just determined by how far you've progressed. So like as you get to the various crystals, it's like, oh, here's some more jobs have opened up. Oh, some more jobs have opened up. And in the 3D remake, they balanced it out. But if I remember correctly, in the original version of the 2D game, really the only way to get through the final dungeons without just like banging your head against the wall was for everyone to be ninjas and throwing stuff.
Yeah. See, I played the 3D remake. My sort of abiding memory was that, firstly, almost all battles played out the same. There's something about the way that game was balanced. Just every fight felt exactly the same outside of bosses. But then also there was only really one time I had to use a specific job, which was basically a battle that's teaching you, hey, you should probably use dragoons so that you can jump out of the way of this really powerful attack. So yeah,
there's one other spot I can remember where it's like, no, you need a specific thing for, well, not a specific thing, but like a subset of specific things. There was one dungeon where you needed frog. You needed to turn everyone into frogs to get through. So that means you needed a white mage or a red mage.
Yeah, and
Or
mini
Scholar,
as well.
I think, could also learn those.
There was a mini dungeon as well, which was kind of cool. I like those as a set piece. They were fun times. In integrating those sort of status effects into the world. I say integrating them into the world as though I can't remember if those status effects existed in 1 or 2. I haven't really played 2, to be fair. Maybe they were invented for 3. I don't know.
I don't know.
In Final Fantasy 12, you queue up moves for your characters and they'll do them in the order you set them in the battle. One of the most effective tactics your brother and you figured out was casting Berserk and Haste on Bash, who's already a strong fighter. Right at the start of battle, he'd just destroy everything in battle. It was great. You made Berserkers. You made your own Berserker. Nice.
Yeah, Captain Bosch.
Bosch. He's the Bosch.
Don't believe Vondor's lies. Anyway,
What?
that's a thing. So 12 12 storyline, or at least for a good chunk of it, is sort of political intrigue. And you've got a party, your final party of people who are permanent party members and not just people who are there for a little bit and then leave is like 6 people. Only 4 of them are like really, well, actually, no, not even then. Only 3 of them are like really actively involved with the political intrigue. One of the others is then the like working partner with one of the ones who's like knee deep in what's going on with the political intrigue, and the other 2 are just a couple of orphans. And there's one scene where, for some reason, one of the 2 random orphans decides it's a good idea to just like run around and claim that he's Bosch, who in a previous war was like, he got set up and now people think he's a traitor.
Oh yeah, one of those. Classic.
So he's going around saying, I'm Captain Bosch, even though it's like, I'm like 16 years old, and this is a guy who was a war general 10 plus years ago. Sure, kid, sure.
Hey, look, if Ico can do it at 6. Sorry, Betty.
Yeah, it's a very silly scene, but also it's one of those things where like nobody stops him. And there are other people in the party who have brain cells by that point. Although I have a feeling they just let him do that because it's like, it's just not worth it. Just let him go. Just let him go do his thing. We'll go do something else more useful while he's out there doing that. It's very silly, yes. But yeah, so your party are 2 orphans, one of which is his closest connection to the plot is his older brother fought in the war with Captain Bosch, and he is one of the people that it was set up to make it look like Captain Bosch killed as part of his traitorous actions things. So at the start of the thing, he thinks that Captain Bosch killed his older brother. Right. And that's as connected to the plot as it is. Everyone else is, you've got Captain Bosch himself, who, like I said, had been set up to be a traitor. One of the characters is the princess of one of the countries here, so she's involved trying to figure out what the hell is going on. One of the characters he was a judge, and he's also the son of one of the guys who's sort of become like mad magic scientist thing and is sort of pushing some of the weirdness that's going on. And then the last adult in the party is so the guy who used to be a judge is currently a sky pirate, and she's his sky pirating partner. Though she has some like mystical connection things with what's going on, but it's more of the fact that she's a Viera versus like her specifically.
The loves.
Anyway.
I do want to play 12 at some point. That does seem like it might be fun. But then again, I also want to play 10-2 and Chrono Trigger and 700 other games.
And you can only do so many RPGs at once, and they're all very long.
Yes. Instead, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII for the 20th time.
Okay, there is that, yes.
And complaining that I don't have enough time to do things. Look at them! They are very good.
So this is a enemy called a burrowbot.
Yes! Yes! Look at them!
And so the first one is sort of this is what the general idea is, and then the rest of these are our jank concept art from our favorite Sonic.
Oh, dear.
The big old eyes.
I've mentioned this before, but I'm a big fan of this concept art. More games need concept art like this. None of the sort of crap I make, painterly, well detailed stuff. No. This, this is what we need.
Well, I figure a lot of games probably have concept art like this. It's just that for whatever reason people don't publish it.
No, this needs to be
Because
in
at some
game.
point, before either before anyone designs things or when you are in the drawing room figuring out how things work, whoever's doing the animations has to sort of doodle out, these are the sort of things we're thinking of with the animations, and you're not going to really do a painterly drawing if you're just trying to figure out, well, how do we want this thing to move?
Yeah.
So they probably exist somewhere. It's just a matter of saving it and publishing it. Because these last two drawings especially, are very much here's a drawing of how this creature moves around in the world.
Yeah.
And they are delightful.
They're the best. That's the problem with RPGs. There are so many, they're so good, and yet they take so long, and there's only so much time. I know. I also want to play at least one Tales and Trails game. Just so I have something to talk about with Kiro. I hear good things about many games.
Well,
don't have time to play them.
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean,
Sorry, Karen?
Some of the Tales games they've managed to put into, you can now access this on multiple systems. And of the ones that I know that are on Steam, Vespera might be a good one to start with. Symphonia is good, but I think the port of that ended up a bit janky.
I'm fine with jank. Yeah, which one do I have?
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's sort of why. So, sort of the three big ones that I'd say are good are Abyss, Symphonia, and Vespera. But Symphonia is a bit older, and I think its Steam port is a little janky. And Abyss is currently trapped on the 3DS.
Oh. Vespera is your favorite. Nice.
But
I
yeah,
have
of those three, as far as starting fresh and not hunting for either an old version of the game or alternate means to play it, as far as just getting a legal copy easily, Vespera is probably be the one at the top of the list, because Abyss is stuck on the 3DS, and Symphonia, the PC port is a bit off. I don't think it's off enough for it to be unenjoyable, but it sort of depends on like your level of acceptable for weirdness.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me.
And yes, Abyss is on the PS2, but the PS2 is even older than the 3DS.
I do have a 3DS, but they closed the shop, didn't they? So, well, I guess I could buy a physical version.
So yeah, either hunting down a physical version or yo-hoing, cracking your yo-hoing.
Oh, I'm terrified of yo-hoing. I don't trust downloads from anyone. You have reminded me I didn't add off to my games list. So that's now on there, so my games list is now up to 745. Although that's across every platform, and B, all of the bundles that I used to buy. So
I don't know how many I physically got access to. Or digitally have access to.
Also, some of them are counted twice.
I know I have quite a few on GOG, but that's because it's like, oh, here's a bunch of good, if old, RPG type games. Sure, why not? I'll pay $1 for that.
Oh yeah, I've got loads of £1 GOG games. I bought one the other day actually.
But yeah, I've also got a physical cartridge for Abyss.
Thank you.
I've played it through once. I kind of want to play it through. So one of the things that you can do with most of the Tales games is they do have a New Game Plus option, where, yeah, basically depending on what all you do in your previous file, you usually accrue these like point system things, and then you can use those points to be like, I'm going to start the new game with 99 of each of these items, or I'm going to start the game with all of my previous stats still in place, or I'm going to start the next game with all of my previous spells still learned, stuff like that. So you can start the game and be like, right, I'm just immediately going to nuke everything, because I still remember how to nuke things.
That's very fun. That's sort of like the opposite of sort of From Software New Game Plus, where it just gets harder. It's like, no, you beat the game, you can have fun now. Get points called grade depending on how good you were at battle and such. Ooh. That's neat. I like that. I'm getting rewarded for doing it.
Yeah, and then at the end, you can spend grade for things for your new game. I usually use it to collect things where it's like, things where it's like, this would be nice to have earlier on. So Abyss has these, oh, and I don't even remember what they're called. It's been so long since I played. Kiro probably remembers what they called, and she's about to hop into the call.
Yeah, we summoned Kiro by talking about RPGs.
Specifically talking about Tales RPGs.
Yay!
Hi. It's just easier to talk in person.
Yeah. Call's always open.
Yeah, I don't remember what those things are in Tales of the Abyss that you equip that like affect your stat growth.
Yeah, those things. Capacity cores, I think.
Yes, there we go. I knew it was like a core type thing, but it's like, what are they called? Yeah, but yeah, usually I do like, I want the capacity cores, just all of the cores that I have from the start. That way I could do my level growth better.
They're very good. When you equip them and then have them like leveled up on the moves you want them to be, they're very nice to have again in battle. On like New Game Plus and stuff. I know that I do that too. I played Abyss, specifically the PlayStation 2 version of Abyss. I played that one at least 5 times, just because I was trying to specifically do this one thing, and I kept messing up the New Game Plus grade shop options, or I kept messing up like just various things on how to do it. I wanted to beat this optional super boss, and there's usually an optional super boss in each Tales game. Usually it's optional, sometimes it's not. But you get this title, which are things that you can equip to your characters, and some of them are costume titles that like change the outfit that your character is wearing. And there's one called Tactical Leader, which you get for beating the super boss on very hard or unknown difficulty, which are the two hardest difficulties in the game.
Unknown.
Which also, going back to what you mentioned about like Souls games getting harder on New Game Plus, there are also There are also options in the grade shop and stuff that unlock the hardest difficulty of the game, and also lower the amount of like experience points you get, so you can actually make it harder for yourself too.
Yeah.
That is an option. Yeah. And yes, Unknown is the hardest difficulty in any Tales game. And I kept messing up the grade stuff. Like I thought I would be able to do it by just having like experience times 20 and like all the moves and stuff that I carried over and all that. And then I would change to unknown difficulty right when I got to that boss. That didn't work because you have to. It's very hard, and you have to kind of play the game throughout while playing unknown to be at like do level up enough and do enough damage to actually take her down. And so I had to replay the game on unknown, and that took a while. That actually. Ragdoll will remember this fight, but there's a boss fight early on in the game where you only have to actually fight this boss for. You have to take, like, they're a very, very powerful boss, and you're not actually supposed to beat them. You're just supposed to take down their health to a certain point, and then another character will show up and take down the boss for you, because they're like a super leveled character. They'll help you out. On unknown difficulty, just starting like a new playthrough for it, I was only doing like max 3 damage per hit on them, and I was fighting for almost an hour just to get them to that point where the character comes in and helps you. Yeah, and but the amount of grade I got during, because I also this was a New Game Plus, so I did have Mystic Arts and I did have like the capacity cores and stuff, so I could do like the little bonus extra special damage per hit and all that. The grade I had was like over 700 grade just for that one battle, and yeah, that was rough. that was a rough play. I eventually did get that title I wanted to get though, and I'm never doing that again. But it was worth it. But yeah, it was fun. But yeah, there's a lot of options that are available after you beat the game, and if you want to do like a New Game Plus, you can make it easy for yourself, or you can make it harder for yourself, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And
or try to do it harder and then try to add things to make it at least mildly easier.
Yeah, you can, absolutely, yeah. And yes, I agree with Ragdoll in that Abyss or Vesperia are good starting points. Symphonia is too, but I guess if they mess up the PC version of that, then probably not.
I mean, given the types of games Chris has played, it's probably not going to be enough of a problem for it to really set him off.
True.
You need a lot of
where
jank.
people are just kind of like...
Yeah. And it is a good game. It was my first Tales game. It was the GameCube version was the one I first played.
Chris, you played a game so janky that we ended up breaking the sequence by killing people in a doorway.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I hope to achieve that again someday.
Yeah, I believe in you. You can totally do it.
Yeah. That's fine. We're not going to be playing anything janky during spooky season. It's fine.
Sure. I believe you.
I do not believe you. You are lying straight out, right to our faces. How dare you?
Oh.
And I'm excited to see it.
the problem is with that, Lewis, when I've tried to do it, when I try and break games deliberately to see whether or not I could do QA or whatever, I never really do anything. It just has to happen
It's only
organically.
accidental. Yeah, he breaks the games accidentally, like when we were playing Valheim and he glitched through a wall because the boss knocked him through a wall, and then he was in like the void.
Yeah,
and
just fell
was stuck there.
Fell
Had
through
to
the very
kill
colourful
himself.
void.
To get out. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you
very
just
colorful, it
fell
was
into
pretty, yeah.
nothingness.
Yeah.
Although I do find it funny that while there wasn't a way for you to like mercy kill yourself and get out, once we sort of like got you out of there, it's like, oh, here's your grave.
Yeah, that
your grave
respawned
was
on.
there. Yeah, we
on
thought
land.
it would be. So that was fun. That was good at least. We thought it would be lost forever, but no, we were able to find it. So this is a very good catchy.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm.
Yeah.
Well, I do kind of know why.
I mean, you've been playing Final Fantasy VII.
True, but also mild spoilers for October. The style that I'm working on at the moment is Tetsuya Nomura, so.
Oh, excellent. Love that.
So I've been looking at references.
Very
So in
excited.
other words, it'll be less of a character and more of just belts.
Lots of belts.
I
all the
may
belts.
I had to add a belt. just because it's
belt.
Nomura, I had to add a belt.
We'll know that they're wearing more belts underneath.
Yeah, there's space for belts.
Yeah.
Very hot topic.
Indeed.
Also, just a quick question for anyone who played Final Fantasy Final Fantasy VII when they were younger.
Yeah.
Do you remember what party you had?
Which time? Yes, I do. Yes. Well, I also remember the party that my brother had too, so I tried to not play with the same party he played with when I first played it. You mean like at the end of the game, or?
Yeah, just the one you ended up sort of gravitating towards.
Okay. I think. Okay. Well, the first time I saw the game beaten, it was my brother was playing it, and he played with Cloud, Vincent, and Sid. So I didn't do that. I eventually did do that later on because I like those characters as well. So,
Yeah.
But they weren't my party when I first beat the game. I think my party when I first beat the game was Cloud, Tifa, and Yuffie. And then later on I did Cloud, Tifa, and Sid. And then I think I did do one where I tried Barrett and I read 13. And then yeah, I did the Cloud, Sid, and Vincent.
Yeah. So it's interesting because like when I've heard people talking about it before, I've never really found anyone has like an overlap. There's no like established this group.
I think
It's just whatever.
I think the only constant I did was I didn't like I tried to use other characters I hadn't used before in subsequent playthroughs, but the only character I never really used that often was Ketchi because I just didn't like the gambling aspect, like the not guaranteed things. Yeah. What were you saying, Ragdoll?
Oh, I think part of it might be because one, there's so many characters in your party. Two, you have a small number of them you can use in battle, so it's not like it's like, oh, I can use half of my party in battle, like in 9.
Yeah, true.
But also because with that game, even though like you can't fully mix things up like you can in 3 and 4, there's still a lot of flexibility about what sort of skills character have. So it's mainly just limited by who can you get or who will you get decent armor and weapons for, because not everyone can use the same weapons and not everyone can use the same armor. But as far as like magic and additional skills, you can stick those on anyone. So like it doesn't have to be the case of like, oh, we have to make sure we have one of these characters because we need someone who could do healing. Well, anyone can do healing.
Yeah, anybody. Like Cloud was pretty much my healer. Like unless I had Aerith in the party, Cloud was pretty much the healer. And also Tifa as well. I mean, anybody could be a healer. I will say that what determined who I picked for like the final, like for most of the game and stuff was less things that you could get with materia and more their general attack and limit breaks. Limit breaks was a big one. So like I had Tifa in my party for most playthroughs because she had all of the limit breaks. But and then like Sid as well, because Highwind is great, and I also there's something that always pleases me whenever he does the dynamite one. It just makes me happy. And there are like several others. Like the limit breaks are kind of what decided things for me, but also just like who I hadn't used before too.
Vincent's I thought was cool, if only because it's like, oh, we've got this dude, and now it's like now we have a monster.
Now we have a monster. I love.
He's
Vincent's.
the berserker.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. He's wonderful, and I love Chaos. Chaos is wonderful.
He's the gunner and the berserker somehow simultaneously.
He's the gunner and berserker. Yeah.
Also,
I did learn my lesson with when you get Vincent, and then the very next boss battle is something that heals when they're attacked by fire. And his very first monster does fire damage. I learned that lesson very quickly. Yeah. Don't do that. I see you, game. I see you. I shake my fist.
But yeah, I find it interesting because, like, in retrospect, you know, I agree that, like, basically when you're choosing a character in 7, you're choosing a limit break.
Yes.
To me, that's sort of what it boils down to. There is obviously like the equipment and stuff like that, but I never really. Of all of the Final Fantasies, stats and like abilities were the least like focused on for me in 7 because it was just materia. Materia was the thing. Limit breaks are the only real deciding factor. But even that was me subsequently. When I was a kid and didn't really think about it, I just put my favorites in the party. So I had Catchy and Vincent, which have just the most awkward limits.
I love. That's rough. Okay. I love that though. I do love that.
I mean, he's a fun character, but yeah, the randomized limit does make it a little harder, a little less predictable.
Yeah, that was like I would have used him more, but I didn't like the randomness of it. And I knew that at least with like Vincent, damage would be done in some way. Like I could kind of predict what he would do, kinda. Because each monster has a certain set of moves that they can do, and just I could kind of predict that a little bit. Just catches random. There's no predicting that.
I think I ended up going back to dice rather than using slots. So I had that wherewithal at least.
That's good. That's good.
He's here to cause problems on purpose.
Yes, this is true.
Purpose.
Little gremlin that he is.
Yeah, and I love him. I do love him. Yeah. There's always a chance he would cause too many problems.
I mean, to be fair, it sort of fits with the character, considering why he's in the party.
It does, yeah. It absolutely fits with the character, and I do love that. Yeah.
Somebody did point out.
Here to help?
Like, because we're entering into the part of, you know, the remake where we would get this character in the party. And somebody pointed out, I really hope they have a better reason to join the party than they did in the base game. And like, those of you who know the story know their reason, but the reason they give
Yeah.
is like, I told your fortune. I want to know what it's about. I'm following you now. It's like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's all that is also like even whether or not that's the real reason and stuff, like we know the truth and all that, but like that still feels within the character
Yeah.
to just do that.
I like
Just
that. I think it
decide
fits
that
them.
I am curious about you guys. I want to see how this goes. I could see them doing that just on their own. Yeah.
I like the idea of a character just butting into your party. It's like, I'm following you now, and everyone else is like, what?
Also,
I mean,
also,
that's sort of what Quimsh does as well,
Yeah.
or it's just kind of
true.
like,
Yeah, this is what
why
Quimsh
are
does,
you joining us?
absolutely.
I don't know, because he got kicked out of the swamp, and it's like, sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
My teacher wants me to find more food, and you're going somewhere, so I'm joining you now.
Also, this also reminds me of something that kind of spoilers, I guess, minor spoilers, I guess, for the Final Fantasy remake Part 1, but and also Final Fantasy the original game, I guess. But something bad happens in Midgard that like affects everybody, and when this thing happens, like at the end of the Midgard section, you know what it is if you know. In the remake, during this, they show a cut of like all the main characters and stuff, and how like shocked they are by what's happening. They also show a cut to the Ketchi Kitty, and that is like the first and only time we ever see them. So I imagine everybody who had only ever played the remake is confused as to why there's suddenly this kitty that's going, like, how could they do this? It's just, it comes out of nowhere. And I imagine so many people were so confused. Like, everybody who had only ever played the remake were so confused as to why that happened. And it cracked me up just thinking about that. Because, yeah. And that's the one and only time that you ever see this random kitty. And it's just, yeah, okay.
They were like, well, we made the model
love that.
already. How are we going to include this in this game? Well...
Yeah.
I mean,
it's really funny.
Does it make sense? I want to say it makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't.
It does make... It makes sense for those who know, but it makes no fucking sense for those who don't know.
like the behind the scenes of this character, that makes sense.
Yes.
But what? Why the cat?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It comes out of nowhere, and it's hilarious. I love it.
Yes, I misremembered the patterns. I had to change it.
He looks very good. I love him.
Yeah, because I mean, like, with the rest of the party, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Aerith, even if you don't know what's really going on with her, it's like, well, clearly Shinra's after her for something, so she's getting mixed up with this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Red 13, it's like, right, you've broken me out of science jail, I'm gonna follow you out because we all need to get out, and then after that it's like, well, we're out here now, might as well. Yuffie explicitly is there to try and steal all of your stuff, and we're just kind of like, cool,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sid,
again, plot relevant stuff comes up with him. So
Yeah.
he
Sid's
joins the party
relevant.
because of explicit plot relevant stuff. And Vincent, well, Vincent's optional.
Yeah.
Vincent is optional, and also, I can see him wanting to join because of stuff that happened in his past, and him wanting to see, like, learn more about it and see how things will go, and try to rectify stuff from the past. But
like him joining because it's like, okay, if you're dealing with Shinra stuff, I will help you deal with Shinra stuff.
Yeah, because he's got beef with Shinra, and his history.
And then Cat Seath, where it's just kind of like we have a random cat on a Moogle ogre.
Yes,
Mugloga.
because why not?
Because why
The
not?
party needed more silliness.
More silly, please. With the
Yes.
advent of more realistic graphics in games, I think there's less silly, and I want to go
Yeah,
back.
I want to see more silly. Yeah,
More silly.
I love silly. Oh.
Also,
great.
just as an aside, because you said about Red 13, I decided on my current playthrough to give everybody very sensible names, like Clod and
Yes.
Bort.
Of course, all the
Clod-
most sensible names.
Clod, Bort, Tooth, Arf, Youth. I just got C.
See? Love that.
Kashi. But when it came to Red 13, I was thinking, oh, I could do Rod or something like that. Rod 1.
Good. Yeah.
But I instead I went with Nunky. Because
I love that.
Because no spoilers or anything, but I
like that. No,
Nunky.
that's a cute name. That's a cute one. I like that.
Nunky. Because I usually name
And
him something else to make a scene later be funny, but
Yeah.
C
yeah.
or C.
I support your decision.
C.
Oh,
It's supposed to be
nice.
supposed to be Sid, and I just went.
I like that. Just take off the D.
Yeah, if you press back during the naming screen, it just gets rid of the last letter, and it just came up as that, and I'm like, yep, good enough. C.
Yeah, sure. It works. Why not?
Could have been Cod, but
Mhm.
C made me laugh.
C is very
Also,
funny.
annoyingly, in my current playthrough, I cannot get Vincent because it requires picking up something.
Yes, you do have to
So,
pick something up for.
and I
Vincent.
guess it's technically a key item, but it's not a necessary key item. So, oh well.
Ah, boo.
Well, I mean,
Got
at least like it's like he's not necessary. There's just a couple of things where it's like a couple of places where it's like, this wouldn't really make sense as a thing without him around.
It's not necessary, but it's necessary.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
Always nice to have options.
It's better than my
True.
previous
It's
run where
true.
I couldn't get Youth or Cod or Vincent.
Yeah.
No optional battles.
Yeah, I was gonna say with no optional battles, you can't really get Yofi. That can you?
But I'm glad I can in this one because she's
And
basically
Vincent,
my
yeah.
healer. So-
Oh, that's nice. That's good. Love that. Don't go to Wutai.
Oh, I did. That wasn't too bad. I had a lot of
Oh, good.
explosives.
Okay, gotcha. Nice.
Well, I wasn't really using materia, so
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, makes sense then. Yeah.
there wasn't much point going there. couldn't get anything, but I went there because there are a lot of enemies there where you can grind X potions. So
That's a fair point. That's
Yeah.
a very good point. Yeah.
Just go around stealing items from all the wildlife,
yay.
Yes, you do.
Well, there's nothing really
which for some
steely
reason are
there, which makes sense because you don't have the material, you had it stolen.
This is true. Yeah. Unless
Spoilers.
you have like excess materia, then she won't steal everything.
Yeah.
But again, you probably don't have access if you're not picking up everything. So.
Anyway, who's willing to bet that whole thing's going to be DLC?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Integrate Part 2.
Yeah, I didn't realize Integrate was a DLC. I just thought that was the name of like an updated version of the original thing because it sounds like I don't know. It sounds to me like a kind of like not upgrade or downgrade. It's just an integrate. I was like, okay, you can
Yeah.
get this version.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I'm not sure if I'd call it straight up DLC or if it's like kind of like is it Death of the Outsider? It's like a separate game that
is it?
they
Oh.
intended to make DLC. but it turned out to be too long to be straight up DLC, and is instead just like a mini game that takes place in between or alongside.
I
So
don't really know
it's
what
kind of like that. Yeah.
I don't even know what it entails, but I didn't realize it was a whole game. Nice.
It's basically it follows Yuffie and her brother, I believe. I haven't played it yet, but we do have it, and I will play it before I play Rebirth.
Nice.
But it entails Yuffie and I want to say her brother, and it takes place alongside part 1, the remake part 1, like what they're doing during all that.
Neat.
And yeah, it sounds interesting. Yeah.
Also, I thought about this the other day. Was the choice to do Crisis Core at this point of the remake a bit weird?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah.
It feels like people who are waiting for the next part of the remake and don't know the story. This new game comes out. It's a Crisis Core. Oh, I'll play that, and then they play it, and they're like,
yeah.
I feel like that should come later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it probably should have come later.
I guess
and
it depends on what they're changing.
I was about
with
to say,
Zach.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, like they could, like, that's one of the things I have questions about after seeing that trailer, the newest trailer for Rebirth, because it does show Zach with Cloud, and I wonder what exactly they're going to show when, like, Cloud recounts that story about what happened or what he.
It shows Zach with Cloud.
What they show happens. Like, I wonder what they'll actually show when that time comes.
And yeah, that is interesting.
It will be different than what was in the original game.
I mean, if it shows Zach with Cloud, it definitely will be different.
At the very least, it's going to give everyone a different context for when Cloud tells that story about what he thinks happened in Nibelheim, assuming that his recounting stays more or less the same as the original.
Yeah.
It does mean that now everyone is going to know, hey, there's shenanigans going on, because we have seen that, no, that is not what happened.
And I don't know how... I'll try not to spoil anything, but at the end of Remake Part 1, they do show some stuff that hints at, like, Cloud and Zack and stuff. They do show stuff that is different from the original and makes you go, like, is this a different universe? Is this a different... Or, like, what... Like, they are definitely changing stuff up, and we don't know exactly how.
At the very least, there's something weird or weirder going on with Sephiroth than previous.
Yes, and there might be something going on with multiple dimensions, maybe, but don't know exactly. So, like, or like fixing the timeline, I don't know. So it's very confusing, and I have questions for them. Look,
the only thing you need to understand is that between the original and the remake, Tetsuya Nomura wrote Kingdom Hearts. That's all you need to know.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is true. This is true.
If Mickey Mouse shows up in Final Fantasy VII, I'm just quitting.
I mean, we already... Are the Black Cloaks like the pro organization 13 or the pro organization 13?
That's what they're gonna be.
Are they nobodies?
They're just inexplicably all gonna look like the characters from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, that stuff with the Black Cloaks from 7, you could sort of think of as a proto 13 because they're all Sephiroth.
That's true. Yes,
and in 13, they're all Xehanort.
Yeah. They're all going to get Norded.
The proto-Nording, you got Sephiroth.
They're all going to get Roth.
Yeah.
God, I'm tired.
I love that. I'm so tired too. Just thinking about it. I'm so tired.
Well, shall we rest then? Should we call it an eve?
Probably. unless you want to draw more, it's up to you guys. I just joined because you said my sleeper code word thing. It's just, you summoned me with tales of.
Tales and trails. That's all we need.
Oh God, don't like. I was trying to think of a good place to start for trails for you, and honestly, it's just the first game of whatever arc you want to play. You don't have to play them in order. It's just play the first one of any given arc that speaks to you.
Is this before or after we watch all those films we need to watch?
God.
During.
During.
Yeah.
Save time. Play games while you're watching the movies.
Oh, just mix it all up in my brain.
But also, a part of me is also like, no, don't do it. Don't do this to yourself. Save yourself. Don't go into trails. No, Tails. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. It's fun and stupid and great. But Trails, no, don't do this to yourself.
My brain's trying to make a pun about the fact that it's got an R in it. It's being like, oh, it's
yeah,
it's the odd stuff.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff that is very good and that I adore about the series, but there's also a lot of stuff that I absolutely loathe with like the deepest passion. That I hate how they write basically women. It will never pass the Bechdel test. Never, ever, and I hate it. And just God. But there are also a lot of strong female characters and stuff. They just how they talk about men and all that. Just like it. Oh, I hate. But
I have mixed interaction with the Bechdel test in the sense that like I think it's kind of it's a neat thing, not as a kind of like if you pass this everything's grand, but like look how many things don't.
Yes.
So on that's the one hand. The other hand is I look at my characters and I go, oh hey, it's the outliers. I have one female character and she doesn't speak. And it's like, whoops.
But we love it.
Well, and I mean that test wasn't designed as any sort of like way of analyzing a piece of media. It was literally a lesbian talking with another lesbian going, gee, it sure is hard to pretend that any of these characters might potentially be lesbians, seeing as they spend their entire time talking about dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is it, and they do that a lot in those games, and it is infuriating. But there's also a lot that is great about those games, like the world building and story, and the characters in general. Just whenever romance is not talked about, great, I love it. But also I love your zoom in on the void. Yes,
there's something weird going on here.
And it's fine. This is normal.
Void is very much staring back at you this time.
I'm staring back at it too. Yes. Excellent.
Anywho,
the abyss of the mouse.
Yeah, lots of good draws. Yeah.
Mouse.
Oh, look at that Moogle. I love them all, and I love your kitty.
Oh yeah,
Ragdoll.
you missed Business Moogle.
I did miss Business Moogle, and I'm looking at everything. I love them all. Oh yeah. Aw.
There they are.
That's beautiful. Excellent. I love them.
I told him about the mascot Moogle in 10.2 and said it's got human proportions, and thus he decided to make a Moogle with human proportions.
Yep.
I love Business Moogle. They're just living their life, and I love and support them.
They're the accountant. Yes. The accountant in Madain Sari, just looking after everything.
They're the number one Kupo. Yes.
Number one Kupo.
Number one Kupo. Yeah, I remember those mascot outfits from Ton 2. Yeah. And I think the Tomberry one is my favorite.
Yeah, there's a Moogle, Tomberry, and a kitty.
The kitty cat. Yes. Yeah, I couldn't remember what the third one was. I thought it was a Chocobo, but I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. But no, it was Kitschy.
Kitschy. Yeah. And they've all, by the looks of it, they've all got little sub mascots.
Yes, they
Yeah, they've all got a
Moomba,
little stuffed animal with them.
Yeah,
Moomba,
they have like
Cactuar,
dolls.
and Pew Pew?
Yeah.
I think is the name of the
I
alien.
think so. I think so. Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, that's the stream.
Lots of good draws.
Yeah, and lots of good chats. This was nice. It was kind of like
Yeah.
half draws, half podcast. Good time.
Yeah.
Which is very good considering that my wrist told me to rest earlier today. So,
Oh my god, yes. Please rest. Yes, absolutely.
not-
Take care of yourself.
not doing a lot of drawing, it worked out. But yeah, good doodles. So yeah, the stream will be back on Tuesday. Doing doodles in the morning and Westerado in the evening. Maybe finishing that early and doing a little Pilgrims game or something. We'll see. Ooh, hello.
Ooh,
Ooh,
that looks really good, Lewis.
they look neat.
That's it.
Lazy's
It
paint
sounds
job. It
good.
looks good though.
It looks great. Yeah.
Who cares
I love
about
it.
lazy? It looks good. Remember, if the result is good and you use little effort, that's not lazy. That's clever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I also like that they're standing in porridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. But yeah, yes. So doodles in morning and Westerado in evening on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is the draw through, and then Saturday is War Tales, and then Sunday is this again. I don't know. Do I have to start playing an RPG so we have more to talk about? Maybe. We'll see. Porridge paint should hopefully dry into a textured ground for Mr. Man to stand on. No, porridge! They're being attacked by Wallace and Gromit
I mean,
with the
we could
porridge
just-
cannon.
We could just say he's walking around in mud.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could also be mud. Yeah.
Yeah, if you hadn't told me this hasn't dried and set yet and it will look different
Yeah,
later,
I
I
would've
would have just
assumed.
assumed that it's like, oh, he's fighting in like muddy terrain.
Yeah, same. I would have thought that too.
Nope, I assumed porridge. But then I'm me. 5 minutes for your eyes
yes,
to
take
focus
care
on
of
it.
your eyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
I've had that all day. My eyes have been yelling at me to try and look at something. Is there anything that isn't right in front of me and a screen? But the screen contains all the things I want to do. Frankly, rude.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the stream. Have a lovely week, everyone. Start a new job tomorrow. Hopefully you do okay. You're gonna do great. Gonna do great, grand. Thanks for streaming. Yee. Thank you. It's also weird having two chat. Screw you, Twitch chat. You're buggy. Let's go to Discord.
Yeah.
You got this. Yee. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming. Thank you, Ragdoll, for doodling with us and with me, and thank you, Kiro, for chatting.
Yes.
And also thank you to Lewis and Oobs
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody
To
else.
everybody. And all the VOD watchers out there.
Yay!
And
If you're watching
yeah.
the VOD, I don't know what time it is, but it's time for something nice.
Yes.
Nice food. Get a muffin. Go get a muffin.
Yes, muffins are good.
I don't know how to end streams. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Have a good one.